Step 1. Hold down the Windows key and press the R key on your keyboard. And step 2. Hold down the Control key and press V on your keyboard. And step 3. Press Enter. This is ClickFix. It's a social engineering lure or lie to trick someone into voluntarily installing a virus on their computer or running malware. ClickFix is an old technique. It's been around for years, but was especially popular in the August and September timeframe of last year in 2024. Some InfoStealer malware variants like LlamaStealer that will try to rip out your passwords and cookies and stored and cached credentials on your computer would use this trick where they would look like a CAPTCHA or an online verification setup to interact with some website. And these websites would pre-poison what is in your clipboard, so that when you press Control V on your keyboard, the hotkey to paste in the copy and paste functionality, it's going to end up putting in some malware, or whatever code or command they want you to run. And that Windows key plus R is the hotkey to open the Run dialog box in Windows. So this whole technique just preys off of people not knowing about computers, or not having the education or awareness to understand what those hotkeys on your keyboard do, and what's really happening when you follow those simple steps. The thing is though, this spread like wildfire. Throughout the past year, there have been tons, thousands, if not tens of thousands of new ClickFix malware, or different variants or different sort of instructions and lies, or these social engineering lures to trick you, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, sons or daughters, or anyone into running malware. And I've covered this in past videos, and it's made its rounds across the internet, even with other researchers coming up with different variations, or alternatives to fire off a payload or run a command in another easy, simple, and just natural way to get to one opportunity to execute code. Even something like naturally in the Windows File Explorer. Mr. Docs called this file fix, but it's still really just ClickFix at the end of the day, with extra steps. And some other folks came up with what they called download fix or terminal fix and all these other names for really just different variations, again, just taking advantage of the social engineering lure or lie for people that just don't have the awareness and education. But recently, the whole world has gotten into even more conversations of security and privacy with new laws, regulations, or policies that demand your ID verification. And while there are things that we already do on the internet that we're pretty desensitized to, like, clicking a CAPTCHA button or clicking accept, yes, I consent to storing cookies on your computer, there will be more things that hackers, threat actors, and adversaries will take advantage of. And I think it's worth knowing what these are, what they look like, so you've got that education and awareness so you know what to identify and defend against. So I had an idea. All of these different ClickFix variations, what if there were a website or a wiki that kind of explained and showcased what all these are and what more there could be? So in this video, I want to talk to you about that idea, show you what's been put together, and really dig into it. But before we do, please let me take just a quick moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. Keeper Security. You know about all the threats that we face within cybersecurity, and you know what it takes to keep up with everything. But the thing is, it takes time. Time that we as people don't always have. But artificial intelligence, when used the right way, really does help you scale. So check out the latest version of Keeper AI, a powerful feature included with Keeper PAM. It brings real-time AI-powered threat detection and response right into your privileged sessions. Keeper AI tracks your SSH sessions live and in the moment. It uses agentic AI to analyze what users are doing at each and every command and flags anything suspicious or malicious activity. It reveals real-time risk scoring from low to critical, and every flag comes with full context. So you're not just told something happened, you know why it's risky. If it sees something dangerous, it can terminate the session instantly. And you can set up custom rules, match specific patterns, or use regular expressions, whatever fits your environment. And it plays nice with any LLM provider, whether that's AWS Bedrock, Azure, Google Vertex AI, Grok, or other self-hosted runtimes. Every session gets an encrypted AI-generated summary and video playback, so your team has everything you need for auditing, incident response, and proving you've got it covered. Insider threat detection? Automated. Manual log reviews? Not anymore. And just too many false positives? Gone. Check out Keeper AI and everything else Keeper Security has to offer with my link below in the video description, jh.live/keeper-ai. Huge thanks to Keeper for sponsoring this video. All right, so way back at the end of July, a teammate of mine, my video editor Nordgaren, had created a Slack channel and invited me called ClickFix3. And I was a little bit amused and interested. Oh, what is this? And he says, look, turns out you can use other binaries to get a shell, or command prompt, or command line, or code execution on Windows. And that makes sense. There's nothing new or novel there. He suggests, look, if you use FTP, like the file transfer protocol, and ftp.exe, the native, natural, and built-in utility to use that protocol on Windows from the command line, you can just use a command to execute PowerShell, or any other command that you want. Same way you could do this with Telnet. And I said, oh, isn't that just like using a different lol bin or living off the land binary? And just in case folks aren't familiar, lol bins, or these living off the land binary scripts and libraries, is an archive and sort of collection catalog of all the different potential native and natural already installed and built into your computer programs and applications that could be used to do some other damage. And I say damage as in malicious activity, things for hacking or post-exploitation. And Nordgaren continues with a little bit more of an explanation as to how that could be done with like Telnet or FTP. Usually in that case, you could provide just an exclamation point as a prefix to a command that you might end up entering, and it's as if you ran that from the command line or the Windows key and R run dialog box. And he notes, look, we're probably going to see that for a whole lot of the upload your ID for verification stuff. But initially, I was struggling with that idea because, well, it is just a lol bin at that point, like a living off the land binary. People are already pretty well familiar with living off the land binaries, and normally those run from the command line. So to an average user, they'd look sketchy to begin with. But what if there were like natural graphical user interface windows that might look a little bit more convincing? Granted, then there would be more steps for that end user or victim to walk through, like, oh, click this button, type this here, press this, but then that might even be more effective. Like you're walking through a whole procedural article on how to do something, how to fix in this click fix lie. Maybe that's even more convincing. It is just social engineering. So we bounce around this idea a little bit more. And while the ftp.exe example is one thing in that that's an opportunity to execute a command, and it would even spawn a whole nother child process, so it's not under explorer.exe, that's a neat variation. I get the idea. What if for all of those different opportunities, all those different variations, and all the potential lies or social engineering scams, what if there were a big, giant resource like similar to lol bins, living off the land binaries, or GTFO bins, or lol RMM, or all those different research articles and collection of cataloged information as to how this could be used with ClickFix? And it's not just Windows, right? Because it's social engineering, because it's a lie and some deception, that could be done just as well on Mac or Linux, or using a command line tool or a graphical user interface tool. Some of these could take advantage of the user account control, like escalating privileges to run as admin. Some could have a different parent and child process relationship. Some might even have a different setup, like not just the Windows key and R. Maybe you had instructions to open up the task manager, and then you could just run a new task, whether you had the run dialog box as well here, but you could click the checkbox to, oh, create this task with administrator privileges. And while that's just one example, we've seen even previously with a lot of the commotion, the Windows key and X hotkey that opens up that Power Menu app that lets you open up a terminal or PowerShell or another file explorer and even run as admin with the user account control. But think of more than just the command prompt, and think about all the different lies that one might be able to tell with this. Like if we were to go explore even inside of the C Windows System32 directory, like Lolbins, right, using that idea of living off the land binaries naturally installed on your Windows computer, think of all the tools that you might be able to research or look up and wonder, how could this get me to A, a location where we could execute a command, or B, a file explorer that will allow us to actually run something with file fix. Let's say I were to use the credential wizard, like, oh, I'm trying to back up or save my passwords. Say I click next and then I were to browse for a location. Well, what's to stop me from here pasting in whatever payload that we want to run? Think of all the gamers that might be trying to get their video game to run, and they're so used to running dxdiag.exe to get the info about their graphics card. Well, what if this website lied to them and said, oh, send us the output of your dxdiag and graphics card information. Go ahead and save all this information and paste in whatever payload happens to be in that file browser. Say there was some website even that lied and said, oh, you have a virus, you have malware installed on your computer, you can run a custom scan or remove it with the official Microsoft malicious software removal tool. They tell you fire up MRT, the Microsoft official malicious software removal tool that requires running as admin, and they give you these steps. They say, oh, run a customized scan where you could choose a folder, and again, paste in whatever payload you want. All of this that is a lie, but leveraging any and all of the native, natural, built-in, and part of your computer living off the land binaries purposely used for ClickFix and this scam. I got to thinking, maybe a resource like that could be handy for detection engineers to be able to see, oh, what else is out there, maybe get some Sigma rules, see the parent and child process relationship, understand the artifacts, and for folks to be able to reference if, something were to go down. And ultimately, just to raise awareness as to how this could all be put to use. So, I made it, or started to, anyway. Good old ChatGPT, good old Cursor, me and my AI guy went ahead and crapped out the ClickFix wiki. ClickFix.wiki, just some GitHub pages that you could explore where you could simply search for anything that might be pertinent with anything that you're looking for or filter for specific platforms or whatever. Granted, I didn't fill out a whole lot of info here, but the capabilities and, trigger on each of these is there. But take a look. This was that dxdiag example where you might fix your graphics driver. What a lie. Maybe you were looking through file history to save your important documents or back up your computer files in the lie steps here. Even digging through the event viewer. Your computer logs are corrupted. Here's the remote assistance utility. MSRA is the official Microsoft remote assistance tool. Maybe there's a get remote support lie. And I started to go through each and every one of the System32 binaries to see what could we scheme up. And I was thinking, maybe this is kind of a cool security research project. Maybe one of you might be interested in walking through those steps or going to track down what are all the opportunities there. But you might have noticed that conversation and the idea for this was way back at the end of July, and now we're getting into October. I realized I can't. I don't have time. I wasn't able, I'm not able to pour into the work, the effort, and the fun, really the interesting stuff there to make that happen. And if I were to create this living off the land binaries resource like a lookalike of Lolbins, but for ClickFix, I couldn't maintain it as a community thing. Just realistically, I could give the idea to you all, and here you go. I hope you run with it. But I was thinking, what if I put this together and actually helped maybe get something off the ground with some good friends that are doing cool security research and work like this, building out these living off the land catalog and inventory and archives. So I thought, why not bring it to the folks that made other resources like LOL drivers, living off the land drivers, or LOL RMMs, living off the land remote monitoring and management utilities. And there are a whole lot of folks there, but Mike Haggis certainly stands out. He's one of the threat researchers over at Splunk. He hosts this cool Atomics on a Friday little show and project. He's a maintainer for LOL drivers, LOL RMM, the Atomic Red Team, and a lot of other awesome community projects. And Mike had actually already started a project about ClickFix. He had ClickGrab. Another living and breathing project that is already cutting up and digging into different ClickFix attacks. Getting some of the payloads, including the mitigations and everything here. And that's ultimately what I wanted to make sure we could get into the ClickFix wiki was that, look, you could use this registry key to disable the run dialog box in the command line. You could turn off the setting for the power menu with the Windows key and X hotkey. As I got to thinking about this more, though, I was really coming to the realization that, hey, maybe Mike could just take over and own what I've been trying to build out slowly but surely, but not really, ClickFix Wiki. He already has some awesome pipeline, tooling, and project for ClickGrab. So could we just combine the two? Would he be up for it? I wanted to make sure this would be something that anyone could contribute to, like that open source project, Lolbast-like repository and website, and I reached out. I just asked Mike, hey, do you think you could blend this into what you've got? Would you be willing to run with it? And I asked his permission to share these DMs, and he said, you know what? Yeah, actually, I really like the idea. I can see this becoming a community contribution type project. A lot of folks see these all the time, and hey, maybe it could just be someone that we crowdsource. So I share with him the GitHub repository that's all AI slop and crap that I just pooped out. But I wanted to showcase this in a video to get the idea out and about and then really just have it live somewhere proper. And I'm super happy because he was up for it. He said, yeah, you know what? This is super cool. We could build this in. So if you go take a look at the ClickGrab website, I'll leave a link in the video description, and I'll point my old clickfix.wiki incomplete, not something that I can maintain. I'll redirect it over to his site, Mike's ClickGrab project. All the stuff that it already did is still there. I didn't want to take any of that by any means. But now he's added the sweet technique section you can see in the footer and in the navigation at the top here, and this is kind of the same interface that I had put together. Well, ChatGPT put together, right? And he's even added a heck of a lot more to have things specific to different platforms. You can see Mac in here, you can see a little bit of Linux here and there. And this could have even more contributions, and we could build out all of those potential opportunities, the different variations of running. Here's one for iExpress.exe, like one of the super old Windows binaries to build self-extracting archives or packages and programs. And we've covered that in a YouTube video. But look, same sort of steps. You could have this stager really be anything, whether it's the Windows key in R, whether it's Windows key in X, whether it's some code execution as that cradle, and then these instructions or steps as the flow of what you'd follow through with. You're ending up using this other utility that might look legitimate and fool an end user clicking through the steps to get to the file browser. Really sweet stuff. He even has a try example opportunity for each and every one of these that shows you a little bit of that process. And that is, of course, just one of many. And while we have not even begun to get through all of the potential opportunities to think up what could be a little trick, a little technique, a little lie is what really all this is. And maybe it's worth kind of differentiating, a social engineering lure versus the flow and steps that you walk through and the cradle or however you stage or start your first code execution input, like Windows key in R, Windows key X, whatever file explorer way. And then what you would follow on after with the steps that carry that out. If we wanted to make it super abstract and like logical or even something that could be ingestible for more telemetry intelligence, blah, 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 well, do you drill down to like, a key? What is the Control V functionality on Windows versus a Command V or whatever on Mac or whatever, F11, all these different hotkeys and things that your computer could do. I'm rambling, sorry, but think of like Control S, the hotkey to, save a page. And then Control L brings you to the address bar of that file explorer. Then you Control V to paste and whatever. You could do the same with Control O. You could do Control P to open up the printer dialog box. Click through whatever, save info as, use printer, whatever. And then it does the exact same thing. I'm getting carried away, sorry, but you get the idea, right? It's still ClickFix. It's still that trick, but bundled up and decorated so that anyone could fall for any sort of thing. Really, it boils down to that user education and awareness as to what is this going to do on my computer when you're blindly following steps like monkey see, monkey do because some website told you to do it. And then for the IT administrators, the sysadmins, the network owners, the folks that are trying to lock down, harden, and protect their environment from things like this, what are those hardening techniques? What are the mitigations we could use? I think we could slap that all into one resource because ClickFix has blown up to be a problem in its own right. I think I've heard some folks say, you know what, it is just as prevalent as phishing. In all reality, maybe even more so because you don't need to send an email anywhere. You're just setting up a website out on the internet and anyone could go to it. Anyway, I'll leave all the links for the stuff I've been rambling about in the video description. I'll leave a couple more of those remediations or mitigations or things you can use to harden and protect against this sort of thing. And I do want to raise that awareness, as I think we'll see probably more of these sort of lies and scams and threats that could come with, you know, just the uncertainty that's all going on these days. That's it. That's the end of the video. I'm done talking. I've been talking for way too long. Please do all those YouTube algorithm things. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next video. And please do give some love to our sponsors. Seriously, that's the only way the channel can keep doing what it's doing. Appreciate all your support. Link below.